So this video is going to cover talking about fractions and students' confusions and giving them manipulatives to explore fractions with. So she says what happens with a lot of her students is she'll get older students and ask them to, on this number line, mark where 1/2 is, or 3/4 or 4/4 or 2/4. And she said usually maybe they'll be okay with 1/2, but with 3/4 they might start understanding, okay, well, they don't know how to break this down into fourths, so they might go over here and say, okay, well, this is where 3/4 is, and 4/4 is here, and 2/4 they might just go ahead and put over here. So she says what you really need to emphasize to students from the get-go is that fractions, proper fractions, live between 0 and 1. They are the whole broken up into pieces. So she says that needs to be a focal point, and actually some of the younger worksheets can be confusing because they're not talking about breaking up the whole, they're just talking about dividing into groups, which is not actually what proper fractions are. So she says you want to focus on the proper fractions. And she says one way you can kind of emphasize that idea of breaking up the whole is to start with something like popsicle sticks, where you are creating those larger numbers. So say we make the number 100. So this is, and the kids would build something like this. They would make bundles of 10 and make 10 bundles into a group of 100. 130, and we'll say 5, right? 135 would be here. And so we would talk about this number and create it, obviously. And then you would say to the students, you would say, okay, well, what happens if we have 135 popsicle sticks and somebody wants half of one? What are we going to do? How much are we going to be left with if we take away a half? And students, hopefully, somebody will be brave and say, well, you have to break one of the popsicle sticks. And so you would encourage them to break it. And you would say, yes, that's right. Oop, not very even. Try to make equal parts better than I did. Say, yes, okay. So now we have 134 and 1 out of 2 equal parts, also known as 1/2. And you could say, well, but what if somebody else wanted half of that half, or they wanted 3/4 of it? Well, we got to break it into fourths then, right? So again, have those kiddos just go ahead and break their popsicle sticks, and then say, okay, we're going to have 1/4 left now. So we're going to still have 134 and 1/4, right? So you want to give them actual manipulatives where they can break the whole. With that in mind, she also has this with base 10 blocks, and she uses this for both using fractions and creating decimals, and I'll talk about that in another video. But essentially, she says, okay, here we're going to build a number with our base 10 blocks. I'm building here 324. So I got 324. And then what she does is, obviously one of those blocks is not like the other. This is our little fraction one that we're going to cut up, and she goes, this is her fraction creator. And so she says, all right, well, we have $324 and somebody wants half of that, one of those dollars, right? So what are we going to end up with? Well, we have to cut one of those ones in half and have the students actually cut it in half. And this is modeling clay. And so now, instead of having 324, we have 323 and 1 of 2 equal parts, or 1/2. So giving them these hands-on manipulatives can be really helpful. It also is incredibly helpful when it comes to understanding and visualizing multiplying and dividing by fractions. She also wanted to point out that it's really important that students be introduced to fractions with circular fractions, that students respond to this better, perhaps because having cut up pizzas and things like that, they're more familiar with cutting up circles as an initial way to introduce fractions before you go into tiles and rectangles and things of that sort. So this is a great set of fraction circles. We have the printables that come in different colors that students can also manipulate and explore, looking for equivalent fractions and how to add and subtract fractions.